Good morning, folks. Rise and shine. It is the first official FearFishing webcast in the morning.
Yeah.
I've got my Good Morning Handsome cup.
Oh, I didn't bring my cup this morning. I've got my personalized FearFishing mug.
I got, that's really cool that your daughter made you?
Yeah, for Christmas.
My kids don't like me that much.
Fishing isn't cool.
You want to hear a funny story about kids making stuff? Is that my son, Ashton, he will go to school and draw all kinds of pictures and stuff, and he brings them home, and I'll pick him up from school, and I'll be like, "Oh, Ashton, you made me pictures." He's like, "No, they're for the dogs." And he'll come in the house and give each of the dogs a picture.
Oh, nice.
He'll be like, "Here you go, Bailey. This is for you. I made it today at school."
I hope he doesn't give him to Chili because that thing rips everything
yeah,
apart.
I know. Yeah, he's not a big fan of Chili.
No,
she chooses toys. Most of the time, he's mad at her. Yeah, when you can hear, like, when he's in his room playing with his toys.
Yeah,
you will know the second that Chili walked into the room, because Ashton will be like, "Chili, no, you eat my toys. You gotta go, get out." But we are. This is our first morning show. We're up pretty early. I kind of like this.
I think Adam was up on the road at like 6 a.m.
Yeah, let's introduce ourselves. For anybody who doesn't know me, have never seen the show, this is FearFishing webcast number 12.
Number 12.
I'm Ian West, owner-operator of FearFishing.com. I'm kind of pulled this all together here. Roped her all in from the stars and brought her to Port Hope, Ontario.
Ooh.
To my left, my co-host is back.
Yeah, a little hiatus.
You missed one.
I did miss one.
You missed Chonger. Chonger was good.
Yeah, well...
Pulled over on the highway.
Happens.
he pulled over on the highway to do it was awesome.
Yeah, he was out fishing.
Yeah, and he was like, "No problem." I messaged him because we had a last second cancellation, and Dave was like, "Yeah, no problem." Right in. So that was really cool.
Yeah, Dave's a good guy.
I like Dave.
Anyways.
He's a hell of a bass fisherman.
Well, the guy, hell of a fisherman.
Yeah, he's beat my ass a lot in tournaments.
What did he say, 160 perch or something that day?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Anyways.
When you're on the fish, you're on the fish.
Rich Farragher. I'm the minion here.
The minion. In and out.
In and out guy.
And Adam, you're back. Good to see you.
I made her in from Kingston.
You made her in from Kingston. That's crazy. That's like an hour and a half drive, and
what is it?
out.
It's 2 hours, isn't it?
Here it's about an hour and 40, I guess.
Is it? Okay.
That's crazy. Good on you.
You're lucky we don't have ice, or you wouldn't get me in the morning. That's for sure.
Good. You would make it.
Oh, yeah.
Good hustle. Good hustle. Thanks for being here.
Anyways, gentlemen, what do we have on the show this morning?
Well, let's just jump right into the spring fishing shows coming up. I'm pretty excited. I love fishing shows.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a good one from what I've been told. There's a whole bunch of new
Ike's going to be there.
vendors. Ike is there.
Name drop.
Who else is going to be there?
Izumi, Mercer.
Izumi.
I'm sure JP will be there.
Didn't we hear some other Bass Elite names?
Ish Monroe.
Ish Monroe.
Will be there.
I would like to meet
Bass
Ish.
Universe. I'd like to meet Ish too.
I mean, that guy.
He throws a frog a lot. I love it. I love it. When you watch Major League Fishing, everybody will be like, "Okay, I'm going to go fish smallies out deep," and it's just like, "Not this guy."
No, I'm
going to
throwing
throw
the
a
bling.
frog. I'm going to catch him on a frog today. It's awesome, but everybody has that go-to bait that they fish, right? And that's
another one is like John Cox. The guy doesn't even have sonar in his boat.
That's amazing. We have the perfect guest to talk to. We're going to have Gord Pyzer on the show today.
Yeah, Gord Pyzer.
And, he just told us that he started his first show in 1980.
Yep.
So, technology's changed a lot since 1980.
Oh, for sure.
So, we're going to talk about, equipment changes,
And he's
I
definitely
wonder
one of
if
the guys to
I
talk to
wonder
about
if he ever goes back to like, you know, there's so many ways, navionics, jebs, GPS, blah, blah, blah. I wonder if he's ever like, I can't find the fish. I'm just going to go back and, yep, they're here. I wonder if he ever goes back to like the classic maps and what he really used to get this started to find fish. So I'm going to ask him that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, the guy's seen everything, right? He's seen
Yeah,
the
he has.
whole evolution of fishing.
Oh, for sure.
So I mean, he's the doctor.
Fishing in like
he's the doctor,
a
man.
professional way.
Yeah,
really was only picking up in the start of the 1980s.
I would even think like the early 90s. I mean,
no, it was pretty big in the 80s.
Well, in Canada, I mean,
it was pretty big in the 80s. I think.
Was it?
I know they had.
I wasn't around much.
6 fish limits in bass tournaments.
6 fish.
Yep, 6 fish. I believe when it started, it was a 6 fish limit.
Yeah. I did hear something about that, but that's again. I mean, I was 1990, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, you're just a young buck. I was 8.
Yeah, there you go.
I was an old man. 1990, Vanilla Ice.
Oh man,
badass. Talking about music, everybody should listen to Vanilla in the morning.
Hey man, I mean, I posted a picture the other day
you
on
were
social
listening
media
to
about it.
Vanilla.
I was. It was actually like hip hop's greatest tracks from
I saw
like
that. That was awesome.
mid 80s to
Man,
early
these microphones
90s.
sound good this morning.
Oh, they do.
This is beautiful. The bass boat restoration. I think since we've had Justin Lucas Camp on the show,
yeah.
I'm thinking Justin Lucas.
Daydreaming like Scott
Lucas Camp, that I've seen more posts of guys rebuilding their boats on Facebook.
This thing is
It's
exploding,
taken off.
man.
And it's not just bass boats now. Yesterday
No.
I saw like a saltwater boat.
Yeah.
There was, like a 24-footer
Yeah,
that this
yeah.
guy had just gutted.
Well, that's it. I mean, there's like we've went over this time and time again. There's no way possible that anybody is buying a new boat nowadays that's getting in.
Who's just getting in? There's lots of old boys in the sport who have no problem paying that kind of money.
For sure.
But yeah, this is the way in. But I did hear a comment from somebody who was let's get into the entitlement issues of young people today.
Okay, yeah.
I got a message.
Young people really don't want that old restored boat.
They don't want that old restored
Right.
boat, and they don't think they can restore the old boat. And in the world of fear fishing, I am not the most technical guy in the world, and I managed to build a website by myself. Figure out how to do the webcast by myself, edit videos by myself, and I'm not a clue what I was doing. And when I first started editing videos, I'm not even joking, to get a 5-minute video edited, I would spend 5 hours on YouTube learning how to edit that video.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to put like a filter in, I would spend 2 hours watching YouTube and Googling.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got to work for what you want. Nothing's handed to, well, I shouldn't say nothing's handed to anybody, but things aren't handed to very many people in life.
No, not at all.
If you want to, just ask our man Adam. Adam, you don't have a great big boat, and you fish everything.
We were just talking about him fishing the Kiwanis Walleye World in a canoe.
Yeah. There's a guy who doesn't give a shit.
No.
So
no, not at all. And I'll be honest with you. Until last year, that canoe year was by far the best Kiwanis year that I've had. People around us weren't catching nothing, and I don't know if it was because we were in stealth mode or what.
Yeah.
And you know what?
It's like the planer board effect, right?
And
you've got no noise behind you.
Maybe I still think back on it. Maybe it was just I didn't have any expectations that year because I was fishing out of a canoe and I was relaxed and I was just enjoying myself versus, I'm fishing a tournament and I'm, trying to do things that I don't normally do. And, I don't know. Still thinking back on it, I know it turned a lot of people's heads when we get all the way out near the big lake in a Sports Pal canoe with a trolling motor on it. And I'm not joking. We were catching a fish every 10, 15 minutes. So it didn't take long for us to have a small city of boats around this canoe, and everyone's kind of
swamping you.
Yeah, what are they doing and what are they using and et cetera. And unfortunately, when you're in a canoe, you can't really drive away or get away from them. So
did you drop the anchor? See that circuit breaker? That was pretty cool.
you got to work for it. And if you're a young person, you really want to fish.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the boat you have.
No, not at all.
I won my first bass tournament on Lake Scugog, and I probably brought this up before, in a 17-foot DB with a 75 Honda 4-stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to put the big kicker fish in the middle live well because I couldn't fit any more on the other live well.
Yeah.
And that boat at the most did 38 miles an hour. Pinned, trimmed.
Yeah, mine was like 44.
So it's not the boat. I'll tell you another thing. If you want to do well in bass tournaments, you got to get out there and fish. I'll tell you a story of last year. I was fishing a bass tournament event, and I'd weighed in, and I did really well day one. And I was standing there, and a young person came up to me, and I'm not going to use any names or anything, and said, I don't have any spots for tomorrow. We'd like to fish the tournament. Can you give me spots? Because we don't have a fast boat.
Okay.
And, I gave him some community holes. But the first thing that came to my head was, I spent 15 years of my life finding these spots. Why am I going to give them to anybody?
Exactly.
And then I thought, why would somebody have the nerve to come ask me for my spots? I don't know if this goes on all the time or anything like that. And, there is dock talk. And, if you come and ask me, are you on fish? I'm probably not going to give you the right answer before a tournament.
No.
Especially tournament morning.
No.
But, when I started fishing tournaments, I'll bet you I didn't talk to anybody at a tournament for 5 years.
Yeah.
I just went and did my thing and,
Well, you guys were talking about, who would go and weigh the fish in because
we
you're both
didn't want
nervous and you didn't want to talk.
I was scared shitless. Shitless.
But that's getting back to the entitlement thing.
That's
Kids
right.
think that they deserve to get on the podium, to get those spots.
You got to work for it. I can remember having like 9 pounds of fish, having a stomach ache because I didn't want to weigh these fish in.
Right.
But I went up there and did it.
Yeah.
My head held high, and I'm going to do better tomorrow. And it's a progression. You want a brand new bass boat? I fished in tons of shit boats before I ever saw a bass boat.
Mm-hmm.
Like beaters.
Yep.
Like Marley worked on my boats forever just for we could fish. And that's got to be the mentality. Nobody's just going to hand you anything.
Yeah.
Sponsors aren't just going to give you anything because you caught some fish on the camera.
The first sponsor that I ever got was because I had this old fiberglass duck boat. I think it was 15 feet with like a 9.9 on it. But I took the time to actually lay down like a casting deck and everything, right? And to get it set up so that I could get out and fish.
I shit you not.
And that was it. That was the only reason why I got something is because I showed work ethic.
I had a 14-foot aluminum with a 9.9 mark on it.
Yep.
With a 2x4 across the oar locks with 2 power downriggers. And I
Nice.
would go salmon fishing in that thing alone out of Port Hope. And I would go to 2 miles offshore, drop downriggers, 2, 1 on each side, and whale fish.
Yeah. And
everybody would laugh at
those
me.
listening and don't know Lake Ontario,
That's insane, eh?
that's crazy.
18 miles an hour.
At 2 miles out, you can't even see shore sometimes.
No, I wouldn't give a shit. I didn't even have GPS. You know what?
No.
I had like the cheapest fish finder in
Went
the
by
world.
the stars.
I like the cheapest fish finder in the world,
Yeah.
and it had one of those like little propeller things that
Yeah.
told you your speed.
Yeah.
And that's all I do.
I think
and
I still
whale
have one
fish.
of
And I
those.
didn't go out when it was rough and stuff, but everybody would laugh at me. And I
Yeah.
would go by the like 30-foot charter boat waving with a double header with me by myself. I whaled fish in that boat.
That's awesome.
But I worked from there, and then I bought a deep V, and then from deep V, I decided my fishing career was headed towards bass tournaments, so I bought a bass boat.
Yeah.
But it's not like,
But even
the
to
big
this day,
misconception. I
nothing's-
think the big misconception out there, and the thing that I hear most of all, and we've been laughing about this for a couple weeks, is that I'm just some rich kid. That I live in this house is a mansion, and I have a bass boat because my parents are rich. My parents aren't rich. We do not live in a mansion.
Mhm.
The major sponsor here at FearFishing.com is Visa and the Bank of Nova Scotia. Like, I'm just a brother trying to fish his way out of the hood.
That's it, man. And I mean, you're just doing more and more and more and more and more. It's just the drive, the work ethic.
Absolutely. And
Nothing. You've never taken, since I've known you, you've never taken the approach that this belongs to me.
No, it doesn't at all. And you know what? And everybody who, We've had conversations like in your learning curve on how this works, and you've been like, well, we can't do this and we can't do that.
Oh man,
and
360.
and I'm like, you can't use the word can't. Take that out of your vocabulary.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't have money to do this. It's, we need to find a way to do this.
Yeah.
Let's find the cheapest way possible and go do this. And I work a 40-hour work week at some shitty job, just the same as everybody else.
He doesn't really work. He's kidding.
But I go there.
Yeah, you show up.
But and I do 40 hours a week on FearFishing, editing videos. Last night I was up I worked till 10 p.m.
Yeah.
I stayed up till 2 in the morning to edit videos.
Yeah.
I was up at 10 after 6 to drive the kids to school in order to do this webcast, and then we're going to do a meeting, and then I'm going to go back to work.
Yeah, crazy.
And this is what it takes to be successful. That Joe Rogan video that we just watched.
Yeah. What was that? What was
Be the hero of your own movie.
What was the title of that video?
Be the hero of your own movie, Joe Rogan, and check it out. Like, man,
yeah, for sure.
If you want something, just do it.
Yeah. And like he said, we do live in a crazy time right now where you can...
information?
Oh.
There is more information at this time in the world with the internet that you can find out anything. You want to rebuild a boat? I'll guarantee you there's a YouTube video that walks you through this all. You can go to Facebook and join Bass Boat Restoration, and those guys will help you walk through all of this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that Lucas has built a nice boat out of nothing.
Shit, and he's talking about starting a new project.
Yeah, I seen that.
Man,
I can't wait to see what he does.
Warrior. And he doesn't even care if he has a front casting deck. He'll just fish.
What did he say? He fished out of a hull.
Yeah, he doesn't
like
care.
nothing. A hull.
Doesn't care.
That's awesome,
just wants
man.
to fish. Okay. Good morning. I'm still got the morning coughs.
There you go.
Let's bring Gordon. Let's talk to Gord.
Bring him up.
This is pretty exciting. This is huge. I'm really excited to have Gord on. You might have to hit our camera button still there, Adam. But this is really exciting. I've been watching Gord since I was a little tiny kid.
He's not going to answer.
He's not going to answer.
FearFishing guys.
Not again. He's way up north.
We woke him up early.
Wonder if how much ice they have.
I bet he's trying to eat breakfast right now.
Yeah. Power snacking?
Yeah. Oh no.
Maybe I didn't give him enough time.
Just
let her
call
ring.
him back.
But you got to work for what you want, and it doesn't just apply to fishing. It applies to everything in life. Nobody ever did anything for. We'll call him back in a second. He'll call us. It's all good. But you got to work for what you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you. It's like saying I can't play guitar. Well, did you practice?
Yeah.
I'll guarantee you a guy like Eric Clapton, or Jimi Hendrix back in the day. Before they were famous, I'll bet you they practiced 18 hours a day. And that's what makes them successful at playing guitar.
Yeah, and it relates back to fishing. You got to get out there and you got to...
I don't do anything else.
No.
When do you ever hear me talking about anything other than fishing?
Never.
Maybe I'll watch a movie every once in a while, or,
Or binge watch Making a Murderer.
Yeah, or,
I'll throw this one out there since it came to mind when you guys were talking about it. When you guys were speaking about... when you first joined the tour, or when you first started fishing those tournaments, and me coming from a guy that's going to be starting to fish tournaments seriously for the first time this year.
Yep.
I know you said you got to go out and find your own spots, and how did someone almost kind of have the nerve to come up and ask you for your spots? I mean, there's a big I don't know if it's a misconception out there, but a lot of people feel like there's 4 or 5 almost teams out there, because in Canada you fish as teams that are sharing information amongst each other, and
that's cool if you're friends.
Yeah. And I guess my question is do you think that it's important when you first join the tournament scene to kind of identify maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 kind of different individuals that you're gonna maybe try to establish a positive rapport with early on to see if you can develop that kind of relationship?
It won't work because they all know that's happening.
They all know that's what's up.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
As soon as you start doing well in tournaments, you would be amazed the friends that show up.
Oh God, yeah.
Boom. All want to be your friend.
I remember one of my first club tournaments with a boat.
Yeah.
Going in, and one particular individual, not going to name any names, told me I was in the wrong place. And I came in and whooped their asses by 3 pounds
There you go.
in a twilight.
Here's the thing, though. Even if you go and you pay attention to dock talk,
Yeah.
this is what I'll tell you. When you show up to a tournament and everybody's like, "Oh, I killed largemouth all week. Oh my God, the largemouth are on fire. The Otonabee River is loaded."
Nobody's fishing largemouth.
No, I'll bet you 20 pounds of smallies. 20
Like when
pounds
Ian
of smallies.
West comes up to you with a bunch of spinning reels
Yeah, here
on
you
his
go.
deck, he is not fishing smallies.
No.
Guaranteed. It's not happening. Because I said the same thing at like Bagger's Bass Derby. I was like,
Yeah. Check them out.
Yeah. Senko's boys.
I'm not going to
Senkos.
I'm nobody's going to make it easy for anybody else. It's competition.
Yeah.
The mind game before the dock talk, explosive. I had the worst pre-fish of my life. That guy will win the tournament.
Yeah. And sometimes it holds true.
Sometimes
it holds true. I mean, I've had some terrible pre-fishes and then come out, top 3.
Yeah, well, no. But like, how do you know somebody?
Yeah.
Like, how do you know there's a lot of bullshit in fishing?
The last name, West.
Fishing has a lot to do with lying.
Oh, God.
Like, that's
it's the dirtiest sport in the world.
Well,
Other than cycling.
Bending
I don't
the
know.
truth.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's a big part of fishing is I caught a fish this big.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and that's the exciting part. But it's the same thing in tournaments. Oh, I whaled them during pre-fish.
Mhm.
Nobody cares about your 5-pounder in pre-fish.
Hey, man, lots of guys whale them during pre-fish and then end up, zeroing out.
I wonder if people can hear that damn dog barking.
I don't know. I can hear it.
Wow. She is not happy up there. So professional. But yeah, maybe let's try to give Gordon another call.
Let's see if Mr. Pyzer is available now.
We got time anyways. What about that largemouth?
That was huge fish.
Oh, Chickamauga.
That is a big
16
fish.
pounds. Crushed the
I
record
wouldn't-
by,
I
what is
wouldn't-
it, 7 ounces?
I don't even know what a fish that big would
Tense.
look like.
Just
Oh,
imagine taking your bait out of its mouth.
You can stick your head in there
Like
to find it.
I'm sure you've seen the episode of Circuit Breaker when JT Kenny's talking about his pre-fish and he caught a 12-pounder and he's like, yeah, I just reached down in that mouth.
That's huge.
And it wasn't even like, he's like, I just reached in there. Like it,
You know,
he's
realistically,
a big guy.
realistically, a
Yeah.
bass that size has a mouth like a lake trout like that.
Yeah.
That lake trout there, you 2 pounds mount or Cisco, no problem.
Oh, it's crazy.
Anything, just 2 pound lake trout, just a vicious.
I think we might be having a little bit of technical difficulties on
could.
his end.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe his iPad ran out of.
Ran out of juice.
Yeah, his iPad ran out of power. Well, this is.
I don't
tough.
even know if they have power up there in those igloos.
Yeah,
Guy's like
he's
24
way up
hours
north,
north
eh?
of us.
Way up north. Yeah, that's tough. But anyway,
Yeah.
like how big is a bass of that size? How many? What do
I
you
don't know.
think?
I've only caught one. I've only caught 2 over 6 pounds.
Really? I never caught a largemouth over 6 pounds.
I caught my biggest
No, no, no.
largemouth is 6'2".
Not on a scale, anyway. Not in a
6'2".
tournament.
6'2" on a scale.
But
But I mean, even that for the fish we have around here is
that's big.
huge.
That's a giant fish.
The biggest one I've seen was 7'2".
I saw an 8-pounder at the first Berkeley B1. 8-1,
Nice.
I think it was.
Nice.
Caught under a dock about 10 feet from the launch.
Oh,
Yeah, it's nuts.
that's insane.
Absolutely crazy.
But yeah, I mean, that's another thing I want to get into about. I wonder, the Bay of Quinte is known for having thousands upon thousands of largemouth.
Yep. It's a
Massive, it's a ridiculous number.
Mhm.
Like there's more 3-pounders in that body of water than anywhere else, I believe.
by far.
How many big fish do you think are in that body of water? I mean, people talk about, I got to get out there and catch upgrade with a 4 or a 5. How realistic is that when there's a million 3-pounders?
On the Bay of Quinte, I feel that they probably school the size more than any other lake in Ontario.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that if you're on a weed bed that's full of 3-pounders,
Yep.
there might not be a 4 or 5 there.
Right.
I feel that in the Bay of Quinte, 4 and 5-pounders,
Are almost solo.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They're probably somewhere stupid.
Yeah.
They're under a tree, under a dock.
Every time I catch a big one there, it's where there's nothing else.
I've caught some giant Bay of Quinte largemouth
Yep.
on frogs.
Yeah.
that are just.
And I've seen the way you fish them. You fish a completely different way with a frog than I've seen anybody else. And I'm not going to release that secret.
I've caught some giant fish in tournaments on frogs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
like amazing fish.
It's funny. Like, I mean, the one spot we went to, there was nothing there. It was about 3 or 4 feet of water. And I mean, there's no current. And basically it's a shit plant is what it is.
Yep. But there's rocks there.
There's rock there, but how often
in,
do big fish on Bay of Quinte relate to rock?
Every morning that it's cool. Because I believe that rocks hold heat.
Yep, for sure.
So that when it's early in the morning and it's been cool the night before, that even if it's a quarter of a degree.
Just walk through here, Adam.
Yeah, you're good, brother. You don't have to sneak around. If it's a quarter of a degree,
yeah, that
fish will hunker up on there. I'm telling you that if it's cold the night before and you know where there's, that floating plastic dock, if you can find black ones of those buggers will hold heat. And
so you're gonna fish those till noon, kind of deal.
No, right off the bat.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the big misconception is that you need to let your. My advice, if you have a really good dock, you don't need to let that fish go under the dock. I think when I first started fishing, I was like, oh, maybe I'll let the sun come up and then that fish will go under. He'll be there.
He's already there.
He spent the whole night in there.
Because it's warmer.
Not because it's warmer, it's because that's where the food is.
Yeah.
He's not hanging out there because it's a dock. He's hanging out there because for some reason it's filtering bait fish to that dock. Like, do you ever catch bluegill in the middle of a lake? Like just out in... No, where do you catch them? Off the dock. That's like the staple childhood thing to go fishing off the dock because it's full of bluegill.
Right.
Well, if there's bluegill, there's people eating bluegill.
Yeah, for sure.
There's fish out there eating bluegill. And that kind of is just, it's like muskie fishing. Everything is on the same spots. The whole 90% of the fish are in 10% of the lake. It doesn't just mean the bass. It means all the fish.
Yeah.
If there's bluegill, then there's bass. And if there's bass,
there's probably a giant muskie lurking
probably a
around.
giant muskie there.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Well, and that's the thing.
If there's bluegill, there's probably perch around. And at some point during the day, there's probably walleye there.
Yeah.
They may drop off and spend the day, like the bright sun, summer days in the shallow water, deeper water, but they'll move up as soon as the sun starts to go down to feed. It's just it's a cycle. And I guess as soon as you stop and, really take a moment to think about things in that matter and take a different perspective of, what's really going on under there. Then you can figure out how fish are moving back and forth, how fish are relate to structure. They're not like, that fish just isn't even on a tree all the time.
Right.
He moves. He swims around. That's why it's important to go back to that tree.
Yep.
During especially when you're tournament fishing. If he's not there at there at 8 a.m.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to come back at 11 a.m.
Yep. Because
if you don't come back, you know what you're going to hear. Somebody caught the big fish of the tournament, and you're going to be like, oh, where'd you get it? I got it on some tree. Oh, shit. He did move back in there.
Yeah.
They'll move a little bit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They got to move to stay alive. I mean, it's just the way it is. But anyways.
It's like lake trout. And I'm sure, Gord, I know a lake where it's full of giants way up north. And in the morning when you get there and it's still dark out, you drill your hole in 40 feet, and you can catch big lake trout.
Really?
At 12 o'clock noon?
Yep.
70, 80, 100 feet. And that's just because they moved off the ledge. And
yeah, for sure.
That's where they're going to spend their day.
And I know the lake that you're talking about, but it doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see very many like inlets or anything coming off of it, or creeks, or it's a bowl.
It is a bowl.
So what's driving them up there? Like how do the bait fish? Yeah, but if there's that many big fish in there.
Because the bait fish are trying to get away from the big fish.
That's right. But how do they reproduce so quickly? I mean,
they don't.
And that's it. So
they don't.
So what's happening with like those?
That 25-pound lake trout is probably 40 years old.
So does this come? Is this just like a slow, extremely slow growth process?
Absolutely. It takes forever, and you can ruin a lake like that in no time.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's just no bait in it. Is
no,
that what you're
there's
saying, or,
bait.
like-
No, the fish. It takes so long.
Right.
And bait reproduces fast, right?
They do. Yeah. What is
So-
it? Every full moon, it's like
I don't
bluegill
know.
are spawning.
I don't know exactly.
Yeah. That
But,
could just
you
be
know-
one of those swindle wise tales, but
But if it just takes the big fish, and that lake has smallmouth in it and some northern pike, but lake trout is like they're huge lakers. But
Yeah.
they just take so long to grow that there's probably not millions of fish in this lake.
Mhm.
They're just giant, and there's lots of little lake trout in that lake too. But they won't bite.
no.
A 12-inch laker, it won't come off bottom.
No.
If you use like a minnow and a weight,
Yep.
you'll catch little lakers. But as soon as you bring one off bottom, you'll start seeing big hooks follow them up.
Oh, really? So they're kind. It's kind of
They'll
like
eat
the,
lakers.
It's kind of
Lakers
like
will
the,
eat lakers.
It's kind of like the Jason Mitchell describes, like knocking on the, or Mike Iaconelli. Let's use that. He does the knocking on the tin roof kind of deal, right? So
Yeah.
it's bringing the bait up, and you'll have other bait follow it. But as soon as that one fish gets a little bit closer, and we'll go with the Laker thing here, the bigger ones will come in to try and eat that bait or the fish that's struggling
Oh yeah,
on your bait. So is that's the same thing with Lakers, eh?
lakers will eat other lakers,
Yeah.
especially a small one. Have you ever seen the stuff they puke up on their way up? Huge fish.
I've only caught one Laker through
And these
the
are
ice.
not Simcoe lakers. Like these things aren't Simcoe lakers.
No.
Simcoe lakers are stocked. There might be some natural, but they don't even look the same.
Oh no! So these are
No.
like that deep dark colors.
orange fin.
Really?
Yeah, they're cool. Let's try giving Gord a call now.
We
Maybe
gotta
he's
get
back
out
to the
there.
table. It's awesome. But again, like there's probably not very much ice there. I've got a feeling there isn't a whole lot of ice up there.
It's been a little bit colder up that way, but still, I think.
Snow.
But that's the thing. This year, the snow has melted almost as fast as it's,
I would-
fallen.
I think up there's all kinds of snow.
Yeah?
I would bet the snowmobile trails are open.
We'll have to give someone a call.
Well,
Well, they are groomed up there, and it's taken care of. So yeah.
There's got to be. Absolutely, there has to be snow on the
We're
trail.
definitely going through some sort of technical difficulty.
Yeah, for sure. There's
Um,
something going on.
Try see if he can call us.
Yeah,
Maybe he's
Give
not
it a go.
getting. Maybe he's had bad reception or something. He's not getting it.
give him my old text to Rooney. I got nothing to do but talk about fishing. Yeah, maybe he's not getting our call.
I was gonna throw this one out there while you guys are on that
Yeah,
topic.
go ahead.
but
Yeah,
I've-
go ahead.
I can't even speak to how many times, and I know Rich and I were talking about this, and laughing about it the other day, about how many times I've heard guys come off the ice and said, "Oh, I'm getting marking nothing but perch, or I'm seeing nothing but perch."
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is they're out there targeting pike, and I can't
Oh yeah.
I can't count how many times.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, it doesn't matter what I got to say.
He's in
because
here.
We're all gonna get a little bit wiser this morning.
Yeah,
with
we are
Gord
right
Pyzer.
now. Good day, sir.
There he is.
Hello.
Oh.
Did that work, Dave?
Yeah, we got
There
you,
we
my
go.
man. Thank you so much for joining us. This is huge for us. We are very excited to have you on the show and get to talk fishing with you.
What can I say? I'm glad to do it, guys.
You're a
Is
legend,
this
man.
Ian here?
Pardon?
Is this Ian?
That's me.
You're Ian.
I'm Ian.
Richard.
Which is Rich.
Right here.
He's the big man.
Okay.
And
Sorry about that, guys. I
Gord,
got you
Gord, could we
mixed
just get you to tilt the I believe you're using an iPad down just a bit so we can see a little bit more of your.
There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Let me figure out let me get something behind this.
No problem. So,
Like I say, I don't know what the hell happened with the webcam, but it's certainly not working.
technology these
Is
days.
that a little better?
Yeah, that's
way
perfect. That's perfect.
fine.
And let's get since you had computer problems. Let's get into how electronics have changed over the years. You just told me when we talked before that you started in 1980 filming your first programs, and back then you didn't have all these GPS and navionics. And do you ever go back? Like, first off, how much of the new age electronics do you use? But is there ever times when you just go back to a paper map?
Wow, is that ever a good question, Ian? I'll tell you why. and this really is predating. I can remember when the first red box came out with the first Lowrance piece of sonar.
Wow.
So we were fishing and this isn't that long ago. I mean, it's not the dinosaur ages. But when I first started, believe it or not, and Al Linder, Al's a great friend. Al and I have often talked about this, and Ron Linder. You know what? We started out, if we wanted to find a 10-foot break line,
Yep.
we would take 5 or 6 Jabax bottles,
Wow.
put 10 feet of line on them in a piece of weight, and then throw one over the side of the boat. I quit laughing at me. Throw the second one over the side of the boat, and you know what? The wind would take it in along shore, and now all of a sudden you can see that
got that
10-foot
contour
break
line. That's awesome.
And now here's the other thing. Wow. I've often thought if you took some of the electronics away from guys today and had a tournament based on you've never seen this lake before, and so here's the lake, and we're going to have a tournament on it, and it's sight unseen, but no sonar, no electronics, that sort of thing. Can you imagine how interesting that would be?
Yeah, and you know, there's like I'm pretty hooked on my electronics, and I use my electronics a lot. And you know, I don't know. I would have my spots that I had, but if it came to like a panic moment in a tournament, and I was like, oh, I gotta find a new spot. My go-to is to get the Navionics chip and go, okay, well that looks good. Let's burn down the lake and try that. So in those moments, what would I do? I don't know.
Yeah, again, I know you guys know about Jeff Gustafson.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeffy grew up about 4 houses down the street, and in fact, my daughter babysat him.
Wow.
And so I've known Jeff since he was 3-4 years old. We fished together since he was a little kid coming in my boat.
Wow.
But he grew up with sonar like you guys.
Yeah.
And and even my grandson, it's totally natural to them.
Mm-hmm.
It is with me as well. In fact, to some extent, I've come through the flashers to the graphs to side imaging, down imaging, those sorts of things. And it's really, really neat to see. Mm-hmm. And probably the biggest breakthrough in fishing in 30 years, 40 years. But the younger guys I say it is actually one of the big differences. They've grown up with it, and they're so adept with it. I do think that's why the Kevin Van Dams, Aaron Martin's a great friend as well. I fished with Aaron, probably the greatest bass angler of all times.
Aaron, call me.
I fished with Kevin as well. Those two guys are in a league of their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you see Aaron on his sonar, it takes it to another league. It takes it to another level.
Absolutely.
I always wonder what that guy's thinking.
And that's the thing. And I think that Aaron Martin's success is that he thinks outside of the box. Like
completely.
That Aaron's thinking about different things that are going on in a water system that nobody's even taken into consideration. And for example,
like the path the shad were taking.
Dave Mercer told
crazy.
us that he was in the camera boat, and Aaron told them to park here, and then all of a sudden Aaron was like, "Can you get off the spot? You're blocking the shad coming into this spot." And Dave was like, "What are you talking about? This like the Rain Man's crazy."
Yeah.
And he moved, and Dave said 10 minutes later, all of a sudden the bass turned on. And he's like, the shad showed up.
Exactly. Aaron flew up here when he was 18 years old and fished with me. We actually fished for muskies.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I've actually flown down to California, spent a week at the house there with his mom, Carol, and fished Casitas and Caspaic and whatever. What a lot of folks don't realize, Aaron Martins is colorblind.
Yes, I know that. I knew that.
I didn't know that.
I did.
That's awesome.
He's colorblind, but you'll get on the water and he'll start picking up crayfish and looking at them. And you say, well, wait a sec, Aaron. What are you looking at if you're colorblind? But what he sees, and then how he matches it on his lures, and he will tell you that color is one of the most important things. I mean, it's never the most important. It's always a fine-tuning detail.
Yep.
So you go through depth controls, always your most important ingredient. Depth control, speed control, then the size of and profile of your bait, sound and vibration. And when you get all that sorted out, then all of a sudden color becomes important. And Aaron is the most unbelievable guy in terms of color, and yet he's colorblind.
Yeah, and maybe it's the whatever he sees
Maybe
is
that's
more
what the fish-
relatable to what a
Yeah,
bass
yeah.
sees because he is colorblind.
Right.
So when he looked at a crayfish, he wouldn't see the exact color, but he may see markings on that crayfish that we don't pick up on,
Mm-hmm.
which the bass pick up on. Who knows? But
That's a good point. Maybe he's colorblind to the way a bass is colorblind.
that's
you
right.
go.
He
And-
is the closest thing on land to a bass.
yeah, absolutely.
How did they
And-
come up with Martin's magic? How did they create
God,
that color?
yeah. And it's
Aaron's
just
Martin on the robo worm. If you're fishing a robo
Yeah.
worm and you're not fishing Aaron's magic color,
Yeah.
you're fishing the wrong color.
That's
absolutely.
it.
Now
I
let's
think
get
I've
it.
got like
We're huge
million
fans of
packages.
the In Fisherman, and that is the most technical show
Oh.
probably ever produced in the world of fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys and you've been a huge part of this. And the big thing about In Fisherman is you guys come up with these new ideas on how to catch fish in different bodies of water. You know, I watched a program once where you guys were ice fishing smallmouth. And, you know, in our heads, we think you can't catch a smallmouth. The water's too cold. Where do these ideas to catch these fish come from?
It's that's again a great question. I could take you to a spot right now. Literally, I guarantee I could get you 50 to 100 smallmouth through the ice.
That's crazy.
It's and in fact,
I can't even do that in the
that's
summer.
another interesting question because Patrick at Outdoor Canada,
Yep.
we have an ice fishing season, or rather, at least we have a catch and release season until July 1st.
Yep.
So we can actually target them through the ice. And Patrick at Outdoor Canada actually sent me an email a couple of weeks ago and said, "Do you want to write about it next year?" And I'm not sure yet I want to because it is closed so much across the country. But the reality is, I can take you to spots right now. Absolutely guarantee I can put you on 50 smallmouth that are probably 3 to 5 pounds.
Wow.
They're so easy to catch in the wintertime.
And you know, go ahead. Sorry.
No, but it's part of it is spending your time on the water. Nothing, and I know you guys know this as well as anyone, nothing replaces time on the water. But the other thing in terms of us at In Fisherman, we're not locked on to one species. We're fishing for crappies. And that's one of the neat things with me. I got Lake to the Woods 100 feet from that
That's
window
awesome.
right behind me. I snow machine from my backyard onto the lake. So, in fact,
neat.
1 hour after I hang up from you guys, I'll be out fishing walleyes and yellow perch this afternoon.
That's awesome.
Maybe lake trout tomorrow, northern pike the day after that, whitefish and smallmouth. So you know what? We never get locked on one species.
Yeah.
And that's the neat thing when you keep moving around. And I've said this to so many people. One of the mistakes you make, even if you're a bass angler, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is only fishing for bass.
Absolutely.
Because I'll tell you right now, if you ice fish for crappies in the wintertime, that will make you the best reader of sonar
Absolutely.
that you could ever possibly be.
Yeah, you got
so
that
if you're
right.
a good crappie angler in the winter, you've just made yourself a better smallmouth bass angler in open water season.
And I totally agree with that. And you know, our bass season up and down here in Southern Ontario is really short. And I grew up fishing steelhead in rivers. And then, I fish walleye. We ice fish a ton. We've been actually fishing crappie the last couple weeks. And, basically, like you said, learning to use our flashers to follow schools through a canal rather than hoping they come to us and reading, which direction they're going and why they're going here, which, that plays a huge part in my bass season because when I start fishing bass tournaments, opening day I have to fish a bass tournament and I don't have time to practice at all. My practice season is learning to catch walleye on weed lines on Rice Lake or on the Tri Lakes, and finding muskie on opening day of muskie. I always go muskie fishing, and it's all like it's practice for the bass season. So
exactly, and fishing right now. In fact, we were out just the other day ice fishing for crappies. Excuse me.
No problem.
And I said to folks, what I just said earlier about if you're a good winter crappie angler, how much that adds to your smallmouth fishing. But, and most folks hear us say that, and they think it means just finding the fish. And that's only half the equation. as you know, right now when you're ice fishing for crappies, they come in, and I played with the fish for 10 minutes before I
Yep.
got them to bite. What that sonar is doing is letting you read the mood of the fish, letting you
Absolutely.
see if it's excited. You might make a little twitch, and all of a sudden it comes roaring
Yeah.
up. Or you don't make that twitch, you pull it away from the fish, or you drop your bait down to it and it scoots away. All of a sudden you fish that opening day tournament on Lake Simcoe for smallmouth bass, you see something on your screen, all of that from that crappie
Absolutely.
experience in the winter comes flooding back to you, and you realize, I got to really read the mood of this fish. I got to know if I need to slow down, whether I need to speed up. One of the coolest things with crappies right now in the wintertime, looking at them on sonar, is we're smacking the daylights out of them, jigging spoons
Yep.
as aggressively as we would fish lake trout.
That's crazy.
And those are crappies that are coming in. If you put a little tiny jig on it and you hang it down there, those crappies come in and they look at your jig and they do nothing.
Yeah.
And so you play with it, you finesse it, and you barely get them to bite.
Yep.
You reel up, put a spoon down there, rip the daylights out of it, keep it on top of them, and then one of them just comes flying up and nails it. And again, that's thinking outside the box.
Absolutely. And going to this whole thing, I would tell you that I always had hard time finding late season smallmouth on Rice Lake, which is my home lake. And I will tell you this year, by using my electronics and thinking outside of the box, that on December 9th, in 38-degree water, Marley and I, in 8 feet of water, caught over 60 smallies over 4 pounds in about 5 hours. And that's just because, and by the technical term inside your head, and if you fish Erie or Simcoe, you should be looking at 30 or 40 feet of water. And I couldn't find them anywhere on the lake, and I just kept telling myself they've got to be there somewhere, and they have to be eating right now. And as soon as I found them, it was every cast, and they were giant.
We went back a couple of times as well, and they were still.
It was unreal.
It was still on. I mean,
and that's exactly just reading your electronics, and how a crappie looks, and then taking that information and fish or fish. I would imagine that a redfish fisherman down south in the States could come here and figure out bass fishing pretty quick. Oh. Just because anybody who can catch fish can catch bass or catch walleye, and they may not be great at one thing. I'm not a great muskie fisherman, but I know enough that if I find the bluegill and I find the bass, there's a muskie there, because that's the food chain, right?
Absolutely. And here's the other cool thing, just thinking about what you said, Ian. I was out with my grandson on Sunday. We're ice fishing. One hole.
Yep.
Out of one hole,
I seen that.
he caught a smallmouth bass, a northern pike, so many jumbo yellow perch, half a dozen walleye. And the key is, what was ever drawing one of those fish to that particular area, I should have dropped the camera down to the bottom. There's probably 5 or 6 boulders there. There might have been a patch of sand.
Yep.
But whatever drew one of those fish there, drew all of the fish there. And that pike was probably coming through, feeding on the yellow perch or the walleyes. But you're absolutely right. You find those little key details. Whatever made it good for everything.
And that's right. And if you take the old theory that 90% of the fish are in 10% of the lake, and now you cut a lake down into, instead of this grass body of water, that they're basically small ecosystems, spread out among the lake, where all the fish are interacting, and then there's dead water in between these. And I can think
lakes. I worked for M&R here for 31 years. Our lakes are deserts.
Yep.
Yeah.
They truly are deserts. And you got to find that 10%. And when you find, what I always say to folks, those 10%, that is the oasis. They are the oases. And when you find the oasis, you're finding 90% of it. And that's what makes the Aaron Martins, the Kevin Van Dams, the Bob Azumis, the Derek Struves.
Yep.
That's what makes them so good. From a catching fish perspective, everyone listening and watching is as good. Mm-hmm. But what we're not as good at is finding those little oases, those gems, those spots on the hot spots. And that's what separates the best anglers from the less best anglers.
And you know what? I spend a ton of time Now my big thing is using my underwater camera system to pre-fish with. I don't want to hook those bass, but I spend a lot of time using my electronics to find, if I've learned anything in the last few years using underwater cameras, it's that if there's a gigantic shoal, there's basically 2 boulders on that shoal where every big fish is sitting. And I've seen smallmouth on a huge shoal, and you'll see like 2-pounders in between roaming around, but you'll find one boulder and there'll be 20 pounds of smallies rubbing each other, like touching each other on this boulder. And if you don't hit the boulder, they won't bite. But if you land it anywhere like on that boulder, you can go from your day of I never caught anything to in 10 minutes have 24 pounds in your live well. And that's the thing that people are missing. And for years and years and years, everybody's been talking about the spot on the spot. Mm-hmm. And with the advances of technology, you can, basically see the spot. And I there's a lot of great shore anglers in the world of bass fishing because you can visually see what you're fishing. If you use underwater camera and you have a look at it, you're basically visualizing 20 feet of water now, and you're able to fish that spot. And
you're really stealing my thunder. No. The next 2 blogs I have coming out for Ontario tourism. I actually do a blog 2 a month for Ontario tourism, 2-3 a month. My next 2 blogs, it's a part 1, part 2 series, exactly what you're talking about, and that is using a camera in the wintertime. I would say probably 75-80% of the anglers listening to us own a camera, and they don't use it. And a camera in the wintertime is probably, and I hate to say this, probably more important than sonar in a graph.
Absolutely. And it's really cool when you drop your camera down and what you think is there isn't there.
Exactly.
Like, I can remember I found this boulder on the top end of the Pigeon, and I dropped it down, and I knew there was smallmouth in the area. First off, they weren't anywhere close to where I thought they were, and when I dropped it down, there was probably 10 smallmouth over 4 pounds there, but there was 2 gigantic muskie and about 30 walleye sitting on the same spot, and nobody moved. Like
they were just afraid to move.
And on my camera, I could see great big smallmouth come up and rub against the camera with the UV light on, and they would like rub on the camera, and the walleye would kind of look at you, and I was probably from where I thought it was on my Navos chip where the fish were, I was probably 20 yards away from where they actually were.
Wow.
And it was one brock.
And the other thing, you turn your sonar on, and here's your great spot. You've got it waypointed. You've caught fish generally in this area. You come and now you're ice fishing.
Yep.
And so you turn the sonar on, and it shows you 28 feet or 31 feet, whatever it is. You drop the camera down, and you find that it's chera, sandgrass growing on the bottom. Mm-hmm. And sandgrass is only grows to about an inch or 2 off the bottom. Probably the best weed that grows on the bottom. Yep. And it's that stuff, if folks don't know what we're talking about, if you put it between your fingers and kind of rub it and then smell it, it smells really skunky. Yep. And it's a very crisp green grass. But you put the camera down, and you see this lush bed of chera, maybe twice the size of your dining room, and it's got 3 or 4 little sand highways going through it without any chera. You happen to drill over top the sand, you're right on that key spot on the spot on the spot. You're fishing the highway. You could be 10 feet away, and you're over top of something a little bit different. And it's the reason why when we're ice fishing, we'll drill 30, 40 holes. I was out with Al Lindner one day. We drilled, I guarantee, over 300 holes one day, running and gunning for lake trout. And it's so interesting watching because all of the fish often will come out of one hole.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not. And we were crappie fishing 2 weeks ago, and we were 20 feet away from each other, and I probably caught 20 crappie, and Rich got 1. And
you're probably sitting over top of that absolute sweet honey hole.
Yep.
Spot on the spot.
And I'm going to release a tip video on the FearFishing webpage this week about, you got to move. You can't just wait for the fish to come with you. When you're ice fishing, the first thing you should do when you get to a spot is drill 10 holes so that you can check out what is there. And by using your, you and I know that in the world of water depth, a foot can make all the difference in the world. And it's basically, I like to think about it for fish is, it's kind of like deer. You don't see deer walking the middle of the field. They walk the tree lines. And the same thing with the fish. They're just moving those contour lines like a field line.
I say this to folks all the time. Folks email me, Facebook messages, Twitter, whatever, and always asking various questions, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I do say to the folks when they're saying, why am I not catching fish? And I'll tell you right now, 99% of the time, the reason you don't catch fish, there are no fish where you're fishing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you keep moving until you find the fish. I mentioned Al. Al's a dear friend, and Al's passion, a lot of folks don't realize this, is ice fishing for lake trout. And Al used to always come up opening week, first week of January, here to Lake of the Woods country.
Yep.
And we'd often take him back on a little adventure back into the backcountry. And I'll never forget one of the times, it was actually the first time Al ever joined us. And so we go back in on this lake, and my buddy and I probably drilled 15 holes. So when we get there, first light, we drill 15 holes, 20 holes in the ice. And the whole time we're drilling, I'm looking out of the side of as I'm drilling, and I can see Al, and he's walking from hole to hole to hole. This is the honest truth. When I finished drilling the 15th spot, I saw Al put his helmet on, jump on his snow machine. He came roaring up alongside me, flipped up his visor, and he said, "I checked them all. There ain't nothing here." We drilled over 300 holes.
Wow. But and we were just talking about this before you came on, that we were talking about young people in the sport, and the new generation, the younger people have this entitlement issue, and they don't want to work for things. And we talked about, fishing is work. If you really want to do fishing, you have to work at it. And when I went from owning like salmon fishing and guiding salmon fishing on Lake Ontario, and I decided that I wanted to fish bass tournaments because that was the evolution. And the first thing I tell people is that I worked 8 hours midnights, and every day at 7 a.m. I had my boat in the parking lot, and I went and fished until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore, just to teach myself how to bass fish. Because the greatest thing I've ever done for myself in fishing is that I learned how to take information from YouTube and relate it to what I'm going to do. I never had anybody. I've honest to God, for anybody out there, I've probably only bass fished with 10 people in my whole life. And I bass fish probably like nobody else does, just because that's the way I taught myself to do it. This is how, and I always work backwards, that if I show up to a lake that I've never tournament fished before, because this is how I had to start off, I'm really good at canceling out water where there's no fish, in hopes that 4 days in, I've broke this down so much that I've got nothing left to fish but that water where the fish are. So hearing that you drilled 300 holes, there's people at home going, holy shit, that's amazing. But that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And I've bet you, how many holes have you drilled in your lifetime to find these fish?
I have 3 ice augers. One of them is a Husqvarna Rapala, probably the best ice auger ever made. They were quite expensive. In fact, they cost about $1,000, but very, very light. I guarantee that one ice auger's drilled more holes than Trans-Canada Pipeline.
It's probably true. I mean, like even when we're pike fishing, I mean, as simple as it is, how many holes do you drill, Adam? You're out there all the time. I mean, you've got to go. You've got to go find the fish.
It's funny that we were literally just talking about this when Gord's call came in, but I was talking about how if I don't find perch within, if I'm not seeing perch under my hole when I'm fishing for pike, I'm not staying there.
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes, I'm moving. And it's so funny watching all the locals. They look at me. I come out and I set my portable up and I drill my holes and I get set up for 10 minutes and they look at me funny when
They're
leave.
mad.
Yeah, they're like mad, like, oh, this
You're
guy's
making noise.
making more noise again, right? Yeah. And meanwhile, it's funny. I watched a local my last time out. I watched him walk around probably maybe a 50-meter radius around his hut, and he took a white bucket and he smacked it on the ice and he kept walking around going smack, 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 smack. Wasn't even 10 minutes later, I seen the guy after he went back in his hut, came out, nice pike. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the vibrations that drew him in or anything, but it caught my attention because I was kind of looking. I'm like, why are you walking around with this white bucket? But he came out with a fish not even 10 minutes later. So I don't know.
Maybe okay, here's a little secret for you. Azumi was up. Bob was up 2 winters ago, and got his biggest northern pike ever with me. Biggest pike he's ever caught in his life. And one of the things we do when the bites, we've got our tip up set. And we're using big baits. I mean, we're using 12, 13-inch Cisco's. They're well over a pound.
Wow.
Using them on quick strike rigs. If we go 20 minutes and we don't get a bite, I'll get on my snow machine and snow machine all through the holes. So I run my snow machine all around the bay. I run it in between the tip ups and whatever, and invariably come back to shore, invariably within 15, 20 minutes, one of those flags goes up.
Wow.
That's unreal.
And I think what happens is we're fishing in 8, 9, 10 feet of water. All of a sudden you've got a snow machine rumbling overhead, and even if those pike are laying on the bottom, they just, it doesn't intimidate them, but it gets them moving again. And once they start to move, oh wow, there's a Cisco hanging right there. Boom, they eat it. And I'll tell you another little secret. Northern pike, I shouldn't even tell you this. Northern pike are one of the fish that you can pre-bait. And if you know a good northern pike spot, if you pre-bait it for 3, 4, 5 days and then come back on the weekend, you can pull every pike from a couple of miles right beneath your hole.
Wow. That's crazy.
I don't know if you could see this or not, but Adam's face just dropped and hit the desk.
But it's these small things in fishing that go a long way into catching fish. I can remember growing up on the Ganaraska River, an opening weekend when those fish were ultra spooked and the water was crystal clear. We learned at a very young age is that, you know, if there's 4 of us, we would take turns and go way up the river and start kicking silt to make the water dirty. And you would run back down there, and as soon as that dirty water hit the steelhead, they'd bite until it cleared up again because, you know, this is the opportunity to eat. You know, they can't see us. We can't see them. But you would catch 10 fish, and then, you know, they wouldn't bite again. And then, you know, we'd all paper, rock, scissors for whoever is going to walk up the creek. But it's little things like that go a long way into catching fish.
More secrets that shouldn't be shared.
I'm always reminded of something John Madden, one of the best NFL coaches. And Madden said the road to Easy Street goes through the sewer.
That's absolutely, and that is totally true.
To be good at fishing, you got to work for it. It does not come easy for anyone.
No. And I don't know if there's, you know, I would think that guys like Kevin Van Dam and Aaron Martens, and like you said, they're not better fishermen. They just have this mindset of thinking outside the box.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the big thing. And you know, it's in the webcast we talk a lot about, you know, not just being successful at fishing, but being successful at life is being positive and thinking outside the box, breaking boundaries, doing stuff that, you know, nobody else would think to do. And it goes a long way in the world of catching fish. And every time you talk to somebody like yourself and you're like, oh, what are you doing? There's always something little that the rest of us are missing.
It's never, ever, ever the big details.
Nope.
It is never the big things that really do matter at the end. It's always the little tiny things, the small little details that most folks don't think are important. They are what really drives it. But here's the other, I think, pretty interesting. I actually won a National Magazine Award on a story I did with Kevin Van Dam. And I fished several times, actually, with Kevin, been in the boat with him. And he's absolutely, when people say you can't believe an angler's that good, I don't think they understand what you're really saying. But you cannot believe in your wildest imagination how good of an angler Kevin Van Dam is. But here's the other thing. I used to think, and I'd go down and spend time I fished with virtually all the good anglers on the Bassmaster circuit, doing stories for InFish or Outdoor Canada. And I used to think it was arrogance, because as soon as you get in the boat, they're all saying, I'm on good fish. And I used to think, wow, how come I'm not seeing you catch them in practice then if you're on such good fish? But it is the mindset. You
Absolutely.
have to believe that. And last year at the Bassmaster Classic, one of the reporters went to the top 50 anglers, and he asked each one of them to predict in the next 2 days. The tournament started 2 days later. So the Bassmaster Classic, biggest tournament in the world, asked the top 50 anglers, who do you think's going to win this year's Bassmaster Classic? You know what they said? Every single one of them, I'm going to win it.
Yeah. And I've talked.
You better have that kind of confidence.
That's right. And I talked in almost every webcast we've done. I've talked about, if you show up to a bass tournament and you are worried about who's here, like if the Johnson brothers are here, or if Jared Dean's here, or it's Bryce Lake and it's J-Mac, you've already beat yourself.
Yeah.
I've never gone to a tournament where I didn't think that I can pull this off.
Even like talking to me, I said, I'd be happy with a 10th place just to get into the championships. And no, man, you're going to win. You're
gotta
winning
win
the tournament.
Because if you're satisfied
Exactly.
with 10th, you're now fishing for 10th.
That's
Exactly.
right.
And that's not happening. I'm beating this
might
guy's
not get
ass.
10th, so you finish 20th.
And that's the mentality. Like,
Yeah.
if you're a hockey player, you don't roll into some hockey arena and think, wow, I hope we only lose 5-1. Because that's going to be the score of the game, if you're lucky.
And that's the big problem with getting new people into the sport. Also, another problem, not the problem, but another problem, because they've already beaten themselves, right?
That's right.
I've only got a 17-foot tin boat with a 75. I'm not going to beat this guy with a 21-foot Stratus and 250 Merc.
And you guys aren't running great big bass boats.
Nope.
And I guarantee you, if we go to Lake of the Woods, Gord, you'll kick my ass.
I guarantee on any lake you'll kick your ass.
This is kind of neat, though. Up in our neck of the woods here, and we've got pretty good Canadian Bass Championships on rainy days.
Absolutely.
The Kenora Bass International brings in a lot of the FLW, BASS guys. But there's one team up here, husband-wife team, Teddy Stooner and his wife Louise.
Yep.
They fish out of a tin boat, 70 horsepower motor, never turn the tiller back motor off. And I'll always remember Bob and Wayne. Wayne Nazumi used to be my partner for KBI. And Wayne always said, you have to watch out for the guy in the little tin boat with the tiller, because those guys, if they're good, and I'll tell you right now, Teddy Stooner is phenomenal.
Yep.
And we're allowed to troll in our tournaments here.
Yep.
So Teddy will back troll and work small lures and whatever. I have never seen a bass boat catch a fish, but I've seen guys in little tin boats. And so you got 150 bass boats and one guy in a 70-foot or 17-foot open aluminum, and he's cleaning everyone's cloth. So anybody that's listening to this that's got a small boat and a 50 or a 40 horsepower motor, don't believe that you can't catch fish. The 3 biggest muskies I ever caught in my life, one of them was 7 pounds off the world record. It weighed 57.5 pounds. I caught it in a 12-foot boat in a 5.5 horsepower motor, because Lake of the Woods was 3/4 frozen, and we had to break 500 yards of ice to get out.
Wow.
And it was the last time we went
So
out
this is in August.
that year. So don't believe you can't catch fish out of little boats.
Wow.
And here's the big thing is that maybe you can't make those gigantic runs that, I can in my bass boat, but you'll learn how to fish closer to that launch better than anybody else on tour.
Oh, yeah.
The first thing, I'm telling you that, the biggest, hardest mindset thing is that if you watch everybody on a blast off of a bass tournament, they feel like they have to run as far as they can. Absolutely. Let's burn the living piss out of this engine and do the biggest rooster tail. When I started fishing bass tournaments in a 17-foot boat and with a 75 on it, and I knew about how far I was prepared to go, because anything after that, I was really going to take up fishing time.
Pushing your time, yeah.
Right? So I would spend all my week just fishing areas that I knew I could fish. There's fish there. Don't kid yourself. It's just everybody else is going to roost a tail and blast over them, you know, you don't even have to worry about getting your money in early because, you know, blast off time doesn't mean anything.
No.
It's just
In fact, most guys blast off, roar to their first spot, fish it much too quickly because
Absolutely.
the adrenaline's racing.
Yep.
And now there's 9 hours left in the day, and they go, geez, where do we go now?
Absolutely. And you know what? Here's the biggest thing that anybody fishing bass tournaments with a slower boat is lots of guys might do 70 miles an hour on blast off, but if you get looking around the lake at about 11 a.m., guys are only doing 40 because they can't burn any more gas.
Yeah.
They you know, they've got 4 pounds in their live well, and you know it's not really worth running their full out now. So, you know,
Absolutely right. Listen, can I tell you another story?
Absolutely.
I meant to tell you about confidence. I was down on Lake Guntersville, and I'm down on Guntersville, and it was actually the folks at Lucky Craft brought me down, and so Brent Taylor was there, Skeet Reese, Gerald Swindell, Marty Stone, Kelly Jordan. So I was out with Gerald and Marty Stone, and it was so cool because we were talking about confidence, and it was actually Marty and Gerald, and I think it was Gerald said, you know, when your confidence is at a peak, and everything is going well, and you're in the zone, and you're winning tournaments, you're finishing in the top 5. Anyway, the tournament starts, and you go roaring to your first spot, and you pull into a bay, and you look around, and you say, there's nobody else here. Nobody else found it. This is all, I got it all to myself.
Yep.
Now, you're on that downward slide, very same tournament. You roar into that very same bay. You look around and you go, oh my God, there's nobody else here. What did they find that I missed? And you leave.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's the difference in confidence. You've always, always, always got to believe that you know what you're doing, and you do have to have faith in yourself. The other thing I would say is, folks, you know, you'll meet them at seminars or the docks, and so many folks will say the same thing to you. We got to go out fishing. I'd love to go fishing with you. Honest truth, you would hate coming out fishing with me. I never use what's working. Never use what's working. I'm always trying to find the next thing that's a little bit better. And it's so funny. We were actually, Al Linder and I were driving. We're going lake trout fishing in the wintertime. And I said to Al, and this is kind of cool, I don't think he's going to mind me telling you this story, but I said, how come you and Ron never fish together in tournaments? Al's partner's normally Jimmy, Ron's son. So James Linder and Al are usually partners. And he said, Ron and I, he said, we used to fish together. He said, we'd go and practice. We'd spend 3 days, 4 days in practice. We would have the fish totally wired. We'd know where we're going, what to throw. We had this tournament locked up. And he said it would be blast off. We'd go roaring down the lake. I'd turn to Ron, and Ron would be cutting all the lures off his line. And he said, I'd turn to Ron and say, Ron, what are you doing? And Ron would say, Al, there's got to be a better way.
That's awesome.
And that's so true what you're saying, too, about, like, nobody likes going. Everybody thinks they want to go pre-fishing for tournaments with me and, you know, spend time in the boat. But we're not fishing anywhere I know where there's fish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we start catching fish, we're leaving. We're going to hit mark on our GPS, and we're on to the, you know, the next 4 hours of casting, hoping to run across some more. And I think that's the biggest thing is that you know, even when I'm practicing fishing, and I did a video last year about fishing is the same as every other sport in the world. You need to practice, practice, practice. But don't practice on a day, you know, when it's sunny out and you know where the fish are. That's not practice. Go when it's really shitty out and fish somewhere you've never fished before, and that'll be a true test of what you can do out there. Because they're tournaments, I've already prepaid for my whole season. I don't get to pick if it's sunny or, you know, we could get a freak snowstorm in August, and you know, I know where there's bass in 38 degrees now. You know, that's the confidence of it, right?
Absolutely. And here's the other interesting thing, Ian, is I was with Kevin Van Dam one time, and I'll never, ever forget this. Probably one of the most defining moments in terms of of getting inside these guys' minds. And so anyway, we're fishing along, and Kevin's a power angler,
Yep.
and everybody knows that. I mean, he's magnificent with finesse work as well. Don't believe that he can't finesse fish, because he can. But throwing spinner baits, working fast moving crankbaits, those sorts of things. And so what I said to Kevin, he was practicing, I said to him, how do you know that they don't want a spinner bait or a crankbait today? Maybe if you slowed down and fished a drop shot or a light jig, maybe that's what they want today. And he said, this is practice. I'm not looking to catch fish. I just want to see one fish come in here. If I can see a 3-pounder or see a 3.5 or a 4 or whatever, I'll find out all those details about what they want, how slow they want it, how I need to pick it apart. I'll do that in the tournament. And that's what most tournament anglers miss. They go in with their hot technique, maybe it's drop shotting, whatever, and they do that in practice. And so they're in there, they're picking the spot. You don't want to pick it away in the tournament. You just want to know there's 1 or 2 come back when it matters. That's when you find the fish, and that's when you keep refining your pattern. And when you hear so many of the pros talk about 2 things, fishing the conditions and refining the pattern as the tournament goes on, that's what 99.9% of tournament anglers miss.
Absolutely. And you always, anybody who's really good at fishing is constantly thinking about the new thing. I can tell everybody out here, and people probably don't know this, that in the springtime when the water's really cold and walleye open up in the Kawarthas or in my area, the water's usually a lot more clear and you can see more. I will spend a ton of time marking spots where I know there could be a bass 2 months from now. If you're fishing an island and you happen to see and bass isn't even open and I'm not fishing, but I'll go, wow, there's a tree in the water that I've never seen before. Mark. And 2 months from now, I can come back and, there's bass there. And 2 months from now, you'll never be able to see that tree in the water because it's summertime and the water's got murkier. So it's the same thing as Kevin. I would imagine that Kevin, when he is continuously learning, that Aaron is continuously letting what happens on the water at any given time of year, it's kind of like locked in here. Like it just becomes, it's like going to university.
Yep.
And you sit through lecture after lecture and you think, wow, I'll never use this. And then somewhere 10 years down the road, it goes, boom. And that's what's happening.
Exactly. I mentioned earlier when Aaron was about 18, 19 years old, he flew up and we went muskie fishing. He had never seen a muskie in his life. We flew actually into Rowan Lake.
Yep.
So Rowan Lake's down at Sioux Narrows, Nestor Falls. You fly over the hill there. Don Persh had Nielsen's Fly-In Lodge there. Aaron had never seen a muskie in his life. Guess who raised the most
Yes,
fish
no
of the
doubt.
entire lodge that week at Nielsen's Fly-In Resort? Muskies he had never seen in his life.
Yeah.
We're fishing big California swim baits, burning them under the surface, and he developed that. It was just a fish is a fish is a fish.
That's right.
And you go, well, wait a sec. I fished largemouth in this kind of conditions, ultra clear water, heavy weed growth. So I'll try some of these tactics. These are bigger predators. They got teeth. I'll use bigger baits, but I'll fish them the same way.
Absolutely.
You tell me how a guy from California who has never seen a muskie in his life raises the most fish in the course of a week at a muskie lodge.
And I believe that a guy like Aaron Martins is just better at processing information faster than the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
absolutely.
In his head, he's 2 steps ahead of the rest of us when we're still thinking about where he's basically where the shad are going to be compared to where the rest of us know where the shad are.
And you talked about doing things different. Aaron loves. So here you come. You guys have got your favorite spots. Ian, you got your favorite spot on Rice Lake. So chances are every time you go to that shoal or that sandbar or whatever, you come in and fish it the very same way.
Yep.
Aaron, you show Aaron that spot. He loves parking his boat in 2 feet of water on shore and throwing out the opposite way and pulling it. So you'll go out,
absolutely,
park your boat in 25 feet, throw up to the top of a 10-foot shoal or whatever.
Yep.
Aaron goes the other way. He goes into 1 foot and he brings his bait in from a direction those fish have never seen it before. And it's absolutely, again, it blows your mind.
And speaking of that, I learned a good lesson this summer during a tournament. It was really windy, and I couldn't stay on. Usually, I did what you said. I was out in 20 feet of water, casting onto a hump to catch smallies, and there's an island. So the wind was so bad, I couldn't keep my boat out there in 20 feet of water. So instead of leaving, I went in and parked my boat on top of the hump, and I cast it out and dragged my jerkbait and tubes back the other way. And that saved everything.
Absolutely.
Everything. It totally...
Here's a little story for you guys. Ricky Clunn, I actually won a National Magazine Award. We're doing a story with Rick Clunn. Ricky Clunn's the only angler in bass fishing history to win the Bassmaster Classic in 4 different decades.
Wow.
He won the Bassmaster Classic on a lake one time. I think it was Lake Murray, but I stand to be corrected. Anyways, fishing a spot. I've talked about this many times at seminars. Ricky won it this one year, 2 little humps, if you will, and it's a rock ledge between 2 humps, and it was 6 feet deep. And he's throwing a crankbait, a big lip crankbait, banging it into this rock saddle, granite saddle, 6 feet deep. And of course, in the Bassmaster Classic, you got everybody watching you, television cameras.
Yep.
So they knew exactly where Ricky Clunn was,
Mm-hmm.
and they knew exactly the bait he was using, a crankbait. So many people fished that spot after he won the Bassmaster Classic, pulling big lipped crankbaits over that 6-foot shoal that they said they had reduced it down to 7 foot. They took a foot of rock off the top. That's how many crankbaits got thrown on it.
Wow.
That's absolutely nuts.
Ricky Clunn came back 10 years later. Same lake. Where do you think he fished?
Same spot.
Same spot. What do you think he threw? Same bait.
Yep.
What did he do? He took a file on that same crankbait and he filed the lip so thin you would have cut your finger on it. And he won the Bassmaster Classic. And I said, Ricky, how did you do that? And he said, to the fish, they had never seen that bait before.
Absolutely. And this is the same thing as, bringing it to every bass tournament angler. Don't be afraid to fish behind people.
Yeah.
Who knows what they were throwing? It could be totally the wrong bait. Don't think just because somebody else didn't catch a giant off that tree that you can't.
Yep.
And it's the same thing as you're talking about. It make one small change the rattles in a jig, and a fish can turn on like that. Change a little sparkle on the jig. Who knows what that thing is going to trigger that fish? They made 2 casts into a tree, and you came by and made the 3rd cast, but yours came at an angle where he just caught a glimpse of it out of the corner of his eye, and he goes nuts.
Yeah.
So you can't be afraid. And, this is another thing getting into tournament anglers' heads is that people don't want to give up their spots. And I understand that. But as soon as you allow, the first thing that comes to my mind is when I'm fishing or I'm filming. I film sometimes on spots where I tournament fish. All I think about is that if I worry about who sees this or who looks at this, it's in my head, not theirs. And second of all, if I ever plan on my life fishing a Bassmaster event, there's going to be 100 people who watch me fish. When I leave, they're going to fish that spot that evening, and tomorrow I have to come back. And if I worry about this, something I can't control, I've just screwed myself. Nobody else. I've just messed with my own head. So, there's a Mr. Clunn fishing an area where he knew it had been heavily pressured, but all he didn't let all that bother him. He just knew, I need to change one little thing because the fish are there. I just need my thing to work.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
It is absolutely amazing, and that's what makes great anglers. And it most of the time, I always tell people that fish have the brain the size of a pea. Let's not give them too much credit in all this. They're designed to eat. And, it's not so, and you're right, it's not that you couldn't catch the fish. It was that you were fishing where there was no fish because, you caught a walleye on the Bay of Quinte this year that had a jigging wrap in its mouth.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't care. You know, he's got a little lip ring, and he went and hit Marley Rich's bait, and he brings up this fish, and he's got his lure and a great big chicken wrap in his lip. So they're not really that smart.
No, this isn't rocket science.
That's right.
Fishing. The other thing, you know, we'll be fishing often, ice fishing or open water, and you'll sting a fish. Yep. And so many guys will say, "Oh, I stung him. He's not going to bite again." Wait a sec. You know, a yellow perch will flare his gills, and you get a dorsal fin, or you get those sharp sides from a walleye. I mean, they'll rip your finger open. So a bass doesn't know that. Wow, that was a hook. I better not bite it again. You know, it may have tasted it. They're thinking that. I'm thinking they're thinking that was the dorsal fin from a yellow perch or a walleye. If you present your bait back to those very same fish, chances are excellent they're going to hit it again.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine what it's like to have a bullfrog in my mouth trying to swallow that thing alive. So, you know, that's exactly what you're saying, right? That, you know, I'm not going to... Yeah, like that thing's fighting for its life, and you think he cares about a little pinprick in his mouth? No. Well, no. It's like Gerald Swindle said, if there is a fish out there that, you know, cares about how many strands of blue are in my jig and how many rattles and, you know, the chip paint off, that fish is too damn smart for me to catch anyway. Let's go find a stupider one. You know,
I can hear Gerald saying that too.
And, you know, I think about all this stuff while I'm out there on the lake fishing, and I take all this advice in. And, you know, Gerald, again, I watched his seminar on having a PMA, a personal positive mental attitude, and that changed. I was at Lake Scugog this year, and the first two fish I lost in the morning were a 4-pound smallie and a 5-pound largemouth off a dock. And 2 years ago, that would have ruined my day. And since I watched that video, the first thing I said, I just turned and looked at Marley, who's my tournament partner, and I said, at least we know where they are now. And
exactly.
And we, out of 110 boats, we were in 8th place. And, you know, it is what it is. You're going to lose fish. You're going to have tough times on the water. It's staying with this. And Van Dam is another one. I saw there's that Major League Fishing where they're fishing and it's like a hurricane outside. And Kevin turns around and looks at the camera and says, "Is that all you got?" And that's what you need to have in order to be successful.
Well,
you go out and say it's too windy or it's too cold or you've already got one hand tied behind.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's no excuses. Why do you know? Whenever I get on stage and I don't have the bag, you know, that I want, I don't tell them that, you know, well, I thought I had this spot and it, you know, I was really hoping the crayfish were going to spawn today and the baby bluegill were going to. No, you know what? I just sucked today. That's it. There's, you know, I went out there and I fished my best and it didn't happen. So I'll see you tomorrow. And then, you know,
I didn't find him today.
That's right. You know, there's no excuse about, you know, the wind blowing and you know, the Alabama moon didn't happen on the shoal today. And it's just, it's not that. You just, today's not my day. Yeah. And when you win a bass tournament, I will tell you, from the morning you get up till 3 p.m. when you weigh in, things just go right. And when it's your time to win, you're going to win.
Ian, you know, as it's the most amazing feeling.
Absolutely.
You know, as it's happening, that I can't do anything wrong.
That's right.
And you know what? We're going to win today. It's just the most. I won the fall tournament here on Lake of the Woods about 9 years ago now, and it's interesting. My number one spot. So the team that got that, they beat us to my number one spot that morning. And so my number two spot was within sight of it, but it was maybe a quarter of a mile away. So we get on at about 8 o'clock in the morning. Holy Hannah, these guys stayed till about 9:30 on my number one spot.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're fishing a couple of others, and I see them pull away. And I said to my partner, you know what, we're going to rest it for 15 minutes. And then we're going to pull in and just see if there's anything left behind. Lo and behold, after about 15 minutes, one of the best teams in the tournament, they come in on it. And they spend over an hour there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're taking off. I'm taking off for another part of the lake. And we're zooming by. This is probably 3 hours later. And there's been a boat on it since the tournament started.
Yep.
We're going by. I turned the boat right around on an impulse, and I said to my partner, Cubby, I said, Cub, we got to make at least one cast. I pull in on it. I make a cast, big smallmouth. I make another cast, another big smallmouth. Cubby picks up the net and says, you keep fishing, I'll keep netting.
Yeah.
I put over 20 pounds in the boat, released 5 limits over 18 pounds after a boat had sat on it for 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, nuts, eh? And you know, let's talk about like when that gets happening, when you're having that really good day on the water, it's important to learn how to lose and be, you know, and I always tell everybody that you learn more from losing than you ever will from winning, because when you win, it was easy. When you lose, you need to take the lessons from that. But when you get on, and I've had lots of these days where you get on the water, and you know, maturing and getting older has helped me that when things are going real well, the next problem you have to face with is your adrenaline, because now you're getting excited. Now you know you can taste victory, and you're going to start fishing faster, and you're going to change your presentation. So you need to learn to control that. You know, when things are going real well, that's not the time to have an energy drink. You've got that. You need to keep doing what you're doing, because whatever you've done before the adrenaline kicked in is what is making you win, right? And it is, you know, moving your tube faster. Shut these fish off. So in order to be successful throughout when it starts until it finishes, and I know there's lots of people, and you hear all the time, and you know, tournaments that, you know, I had 3 big ones, but I couldn't finish it off, and I totally believe that's because, first off, the first three are easy, because after the third one, you can feel the money. You can feel that this could be it, and then you start changing how you fish, even if you don't realize you are. You're cranking that handle. You're thinking, oh my God.
It's like what Marley says all the time. You just got to slow down.
That's right.
Slow it down.
Slow it down.
Like your trolling motor slowly cranks up, and you've got to get up there and
exactly.
turn it back down.
That's why the fifth fish is always the hard one to catch.
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure.
and it's because you're almost there. It's like a marathon, you know. But if in the middle of that marathon you start picking up the pace, even when you have the lead, by the time you get to the end, you're going to burn out. So I think that's a big thing at people at home is that you know, as much as you have to be positive, there's a point in a tournament where you need to learn to control those feelings and control that adrenaline rush.
We went through, it feels like, you know, 100 different stories today, all awesome, great information. I want to thank you, Gord, for coming on the show, because this has been awesome. Insane. And I've learned a lot just from sitting here listening. And but before we let you go, we have a tradition here.
Well, hold on. Let's before we do the your best fishing story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your grandson Liam quick.
Oh yeah.
Because we've been following him all over Facebook, and he's becoming a really good stick. Like he you know. The final question before we do the big one: how do we get more young people like Liam into the sport of fishing? Does he have friends his age who are fishing? You know,
he does, and that it really, truly is a good question, and we all should think about it, Ian. But I think the problem is we dumb it down for the kids when we should be going the other direction.
Absolutely.
We say to them, like, come on, who wants to sit in a boat with a big life jacket on and a rod in their hand watching a bobber? That's not exciting. But how many of us will say, oh, no, I don't want you casting in the boat. That's not safe.
Yep.
Why isn't it safe? We're all doing it. The other funny thing is my grandson, Liam, he actually likes fishing bait casting equipment better than he does spinning. He's 13 years old.
Yep.
He's been fishing a bait casting rod since he's 4 or 5 years old. And I can always remember him saying, Grandpa, I want to throw a bait caster like you. And, you know, your normal reaction is no. But why is it no? So I'm saying, pick up the bait caster, learn how to fish it. And so he's up front now. He'll say when he's 8 or 9 years old, I want to run the electric trolling motor. Absolutely, run the electric trolling motor.
That's great
You wanna
advice.
run a 225 Verado, get behind the boat. He runs my Verado. I know it's illegal. I shouldn't even be saying that. He runs the damn boat, and you know what the honest truth is? He probably runs it better or as well as I do. But we dumb the kids down.
Yeah.
And we say, put a damn bobber on and a worm and watch your butt. That isn't exciting.
No,
You
it's
wouldn't
not.
do it. I wouldn't
Nope.
do it. So why would the kids want to do it? Let them do what you're doing and let them have the fun that you're having.
And that's true, because I take my 4-year-old son out in the bass boat, and whenever him and I go fishing, he can cast his little rod a mile, and the first thing I do is take him to whatever lily pads I can find, tie a frog on his bait, and he's never landed one, but he's had 5 or 6 largemouth blow up on his frog, and the first thing he does is throw his rod on the ground and cheer because he's 4. But this is the part that means something, right?
Yeah.
That's the adrenaline we were talking about pumping through a 4-year-old. He's like, oh my God, look.
I did it right,
And that you're absolutely right, and that's the first time I've ever heard anybody say that we're dumbing this down. And in this came through, like, for me, is that if my 4-year-old can run the iPad and find what his favorite game or his movie on YouTube, he can use a spinning rod.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that and that's absolutely amazing advice for everybody out there, that we need to not dumb this down and think that we need to show kids the basics, but then we need to let them go with things. And I totally know what you're saying, because I can remember when I was a kid going, my dad had one of those great big Fenwick tackle boxes.
Yeah.
And stealing lures was like the ultimate sin in this house. If he had his Rapala in the package, it was the end of the world if he went to get it and it wasn't there. So I totally get what you're saying. Go ahead.
No, Jeffy Gustafson, I mentioned Jeff's fished with me since he was a little kid. I got pictures of Jeff wearing a Snoopy life jacket, and he would bring one of those tackle boxes with him in the boat. We'd go walleye fishing.
Yeah.
And if Jeff had 80 lures in that tackle box, and we'd be walleye fishing, rattle traps, spinner baits, frogs, whatever, he would say, I want to throw a spinner bait. And, your normal reaction is to say, Jeff, you're not going to catch a walleye on a spinner bait. He wanted to, and I never did say, don't throw that spinner bait. And so we'd go walleye fishing. He'd have 80 lures in the tackle box. And when we came home at night, there would be 80 lures that got wet.
Yep.
He had a blast. We had fun. We caught lots of fish. And he's one of the best bass fishermen on the continent today.
And you know,
partially the result of doing those sorts of things.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I can remember when I was a kid, my dad took me to the Toronto Sportsman Show, bought me an Abua Garcia push button like casting reel, and he used to take me to the Ganaraska River. And my dad didn't fish that much or have very much knowledge, but he always took me, and he would tie me to the fence with a rope, just enough line to get to the edge for I couldn't fall in.
Nice.
And there would be Chinook salmon, and I would cast a Cleo with that thing, and I bet you 90% of them I hooked in the tail. But as a 4-year-old, it was just this that was exciting, and that's what got me hooked. He was just like, here's your rod, here's a lure. He knows nothing about fishing. It's the 80s, and he's like, fire it out there, have a blast. I'll be over here if you need me. And I would spend hours, and I probably lost 1,000 lures on the guy. But you're absolutely right. It's those really young moments of excitement that we need to show, and not sitting in a boat with your life jacket on, you can't move. That it goes a long way. I wish.
The funny thing too, my grandson Liam, he absolutely loves to flip and pitch.
Yep.
And we don't have the greatest largemouth water in the world up here. Very, very isolated Canadian Shield type lakes, but we do have some largemouth. He absolutely loves to flip and pitch, and he can go all day in and flip and jig and pig or whatever. And he might get 2 bites, and at the end of the day, he can't wait to go out again tomorrow and flip and pitch for largemouth. Why would I say no? We're not going to go.
And you know what?
If that's what you enjoy doing, do it.
Absolutely. And you know what? If he is that dedicated to doing that up there, where he knows he's going to get 2 fish, when that young man makes his way to the southern, areas where there's more largemouth, he is going to be a machine
Oh yeah,
I-
for sure.
Because
I
if he's
promised
prepared,
him.
if
You
he's
promised him.
We're going to Okeechobee
Oh,
Lake.
okay.
It'll be within
And
the
you know-
next year or so. We're going to fly down at Christmas. We're going to go on Okeechobee, and that's all we're going to do is flip and pitch, and he's going to be out of this world.
That's right. And you know that this is the hard work and determination we've been talking about, that young man would spend that much time and that much energy to catch 2 fish.
Yeah.
And it'll pay off. And this is what, you know, I think this is some of the best advice we've ever got him on
Oh,
how
for
to
sure.
get young people into fishing rather
Yeah.
than the same old, you know, spiel that we get. I think this is huge.
Yeah.
But Gord, we've taken up enough of your time. Quickly, because we do this with all our guests, what is your all-time best fishing story?
Now, what do you got to define? What's best fish?
Hey, anything you
It
want.
can be embarrassing.
Yep.
It can be
Scott
the biggest
Martin,
fish.
Yeah. Scott Martin told us that he was in a tournament when he was 17 years old, and he fell out of the boat, and there was alligators on Okeechobee, and he managed to land this bass
In the water.
in the water. He reeled him in the water.
Yeah, but, you know, the first thing that comes to a couple of years ago, we were fishing a little fun walleye tournament here on Lake of the Woods, and I was fishing it with my grandson.
Yep.
And it was kind of a neat event because it was a 4-fish limit, but it had to be a 14-inch, 15-inch, 16, and 17.
Okay.
So your 4 fish, and they had to be 14, 15, 16, 17. And so each inch or portion of an inch over was your deduction. So whoever got 0, it was
That's
actually
cool.
the KC Walleye Cup here. And so 0 was the best. So
Oh, I
if you
gotcha.
got a 14 and a quarter, the 1/4 inch would be a
I gotcha.
deduction.
Yep.
If your 15-inch was 15 and 3/8, that was a 3/8 added on to the 1/4. Anyway, I'm out with my grandson Liam. We've got our 14. We got one that's pretty close to 15. We got one pretty close to 16. And then I get, I forget what it was now, 16 and, or maybe we had the 2. So then I get one about 16 and 3/8 or whatever it was, or we had 2 in about that. We needed a 17. And then we get this, another fish, and it was really close. So I keep it and I throw out, I guess it was 16 and 3/4 we would have had. So
Yep.
I throw it out and replace it with the one that's closer to 16. And then I realize, holy shit, we don't have our 17. I should have kept that. And they couldn't, and we're getting 18 inches and 19 inches. And this is a tournament where 18 and 19 should
They don't matter.
catch them, but you really want one 17.
17.
But I had released the 16 and 3/4
Ah.
because we got one that was about 16 and an 8.
Oh,
So he reminds me that was a grandfather moment.
that's awesome. That's a good story.
good.
But you know, and he'll remember that forever.
Oh, yeah.
And those are the great fishing stories that, you know, people carry through their whole life.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for doing this,
Yeah.
Gord. This was absolutely amazing, and you know, there's a ton of information here for people to, you know, soak up, and I think there's a ton of information here for tournament anglers, and there's a ton of information here for the weekend warrior
Yep.
to pick up on to
Yep,
get
for
more
sure.
fish.
Well, thank you. You guys know this. Fishing is unquestionably the best sport we could be doing.
Absolutely.
In terms of family values, in terms of getting outdoors, in terms of kind of responsible outdoor conservation management. Just everything about it is amazing, and I feel sorry for folks who don't do it.
Absolutely.
So anyone who's listening that wants to, they should get out this year and try fishing. As we talk, it's not rocket science.
No, it's not.
It's just great fun. And,
Absolutely.
You know, what more could I say? It's the greatest thing one could do.
Fishing
What
is
I spend all my waking and
Yep.
sleeping hours doing.
and fishing. That's all I do. And fishing is, you know, my whole life is fishing, and you know, I don't even know what I would do if I didn't fish. So.
No, me neither.
That's awesome. Thank you again so much for doing this.
Yeah,
This
thanks a
has
lot.
been a huge honor for me, and you know, hopefully we can have you back on again.
Yeah, for
Hey,
sure.
anytime, guys, and we'll remember I'm on Central Time.
Yeah, we will. That was kind of funny. Thank you so much, Gord. You have a great day, and I hope you get fish today out on the ice, my man.
Well, it's only I'm an hour behind you, so I'm heading out right now.
Nice.
Perfect. You have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a bunch, guys.
Bye.
That was awesome.
Oh man,
Good thing you cut us off there because we had to talk forever.
I know,
That
and
was-
we could have.
That was awesome.
This guy has won 42 national writing awards. 42.
He is, you know,
And it shows. I mean,
it
the
shows.
Guy, they don't call him the doctor for no reason.
the information that you just listened to will help you catch fish.
This
in
is
some way.
probably one of the only webcasts where I'm going to go back and watch the entire thing all the way
Yeah,
through.
That was awesome. My mind is blown. I need to process some information here. That was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
All I can really say is I'm getting wiser with Pyzer. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's a
Maybe
good
we can
one.
make that a segment.
Yeah,
Wiser with Pyzer.
getting wiser with Pyzer.
And I know Gord's probably going to come back and watch this again. If we manage to get Jeff Gustafson on the show,
Oh
I want that 8-year-old photo
yes,
with the what was it, the
Snoopy.
Snoopy? I want that picture,
yes.
and we're gonna post it on here.
This kind of works out because I think we're gonna film another webcast coming up in a few
Yep.
days. So
Yep.
that went on for so long that we can talk about everything in the next show. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank R&J Tire,
Yep.
Liquid Mayhem. You can find FearFishing on Facebook. You can find the FearFishing webpage on Facebook,
Mhm.
Instagram,
There you
fear_fishing,
go.
Twitter, @FearFishing, and I want comment. Let us know what's going on out there. Let us know what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm about ready for one of those Aries burgers.
oh man, could I ever go for a burger? I'm starving. I like this morning webcast thing though.
Yeah, that's
It was
good.
kind of nice to get up and get it out of the way, and do some little chatting. Gord gets to go ice fishing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
all fired up. Let's
Everybody
go for
wins.
a jig.
All right, let's go. Hey, I got nothing else to do today. I mean, it's +7 and raining, but let's go.
So for everybody at home, thanks so much for watching. Share. Let everybody know about Fear Fishing, for we can bring you more stuff Fear Fishing related. And thanks for all the support.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll talk to you guys all.